There are many, many reasons why P3s can deliver infrastructure projects more successfully than in the old traditional way. But the big ones have to do with using private sector creativity, innovation, and ingenuity to deliver things more efficiently and at a higher level of quality. The reasons for that are that the government is able to transfer the risk that it has traditionally taken of the coordination of various design, finance, construction, and operation risk. And by transferring that to the private sector is able to integrate those in a way which is much more efficient and which is much more focused on success, because its interests are long-term, as opposed to the government's interests, which unfortunately are more driven by electoral cycles. And so when you think long-term, you build a higher quality so that your maintenance costs will be lower. You finance things in the most efficient way so that security will still be given to the government so things will get done, but you minimize the costs of the financing wherever you can. And in terms of the construction process, combined with the design capabilities in one, you get much more constructability, you get much more efficiency of design, and you really think about value for money all the way through. That combination of all those things makes P3s more successful. Of course, the proof is in the pudding, and all we have to do is look at the last 15 years of P3 development in Ontario to see that the P3 projects have been delivered on time and on budget, whereas the comparators have not been. And that's just empirical evidence that we've all been able to assess. I would say also that, generally speaking, the solution to the issues around P3s are in the fine-tuning of how they're structured, and not so much in the fundamental principle of yes P3 or no P3. It's more about the regulatory framework and making sure that the public is satisfied through full transparency that there's value for money.
If you've got a simple project, one with really not that much risk, that's very straightforward, maybe not very big, and you've got one that you need to get to market, you need to get it tendered very quickly. Probably in those cases, P3 is not as advantageous. P3 takes a while. The bidding costs, frankly, are higher, and therefore that cost of the project is higher because somebody has to pay it. But if you've got a project which is more complicated, which has significant construction and design risk, any reasonably complicated, so public sector infrastructure falls easily into that category, that's where P3 works. P3 works because what you're doing, and here's where it's advantageous, is you are really downloading the risk of all of that construction, firstly, to the people who are best at it. You say to the builders and the designers and everybody, you work together and you come up with it, but you've got all the risk because the taxpayer doesn't want it anymore. We can handle the risk better than, frankly, the taxpayer, I mean the bureaucracy can, and therefore we're better at it and the cost should be lower. But the main advantage, in my view, to P3s is that you eliminate the risk in the gaps, the gap between design and construction, which is huge, the gap between construction and design and operate, which is equally huge. When you bring it all together and integrate it, that's where the real transfer takes place, the real risk transfer. That's where the real innovations take place, and that's where the real value comes from. So if you've got a reasonably complex project that is reasonably big, that's when P3 really works.